Nice.
Excellent.
Nice.
Okay, so we have
Wow,
that.
I get ready for that. That spike was huge.
Was it a DataSpike?
Yeah.
It was DataSpike.
It's a
Big.
DataSpike.
I saw that coming. I wasn't impressed.
Oh man, I didn't see it coming, but I will next time. Yeah, so we are here with Meyer and Darj, who seem like fine gentlemen, except they're in awkward time zones relative to Danimal and I's time zone. So, last time I did anything with time zones, I was on the base, and it confused me, and I got it wrong. And Papa Dolvac, who's in chat, will remember because it totally screwed up something else I was supposed to do. So, time zones suck, but Darj and Meyer do not. And Danimal and I are from the DataSpike podcast, which is another content item that you can access with your interwebs that covers Star Citizen. And we came on, a little Twitch stream to do a little podcast roundtable.
Should be fun.
That's
Yeah,
all I know,
right.
really.
Well, this is all anybody actually needs to know. So everybody already knows what we do and are pretty much sick of it at this point. So what do you two do in
Danimal,
the
I'll
Star
let you-
Citizen community?
I'll let you take this one, Danimal.
So we have a very filthy casual podcast, as we like to call it. We just, every month or so, we'll just get on and talk about Star Citizen. It's really not super specific. We try to go into mechanics and a little more theory crafting than just reporting the news, because there are many outlets that already do that quite well. So instead of fighting for the same market, we decided to maybe branch out a little bit. And we have a little Discord community. We get together and try to play games. And if it's Star Citizen or Overwatch or whatever, we'll do that too. So
Yep. We just most recently had our first, we're calling it Flight Night, but we had a 8-person group get into Discord, and we all hopped into Arena Commander and then the PU and had a great time. And other than that, I am also, along with Meyer, involved in the Bulkheads machinima. So we take part in voicing some of the characters in that, which is a good time. So
We have fun.
yeah.
And Meyer, you didn't remember to actually pull up Bulkheads just for this little.
Yeah, well, I didn't think he was gonna bring it up just now, but you know what?
You should.
Are you
because
embarrassed? Are you
Everyone needs
embarrassed
to
of
see our recent Benny's short.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, we could, sure.
I think not only could we should.
We should.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay then. All right.
Well, it's a good thing you actually made a scene for YouTube stuff.
I did indeed. So this is actually already all sorted. So since the people have spoken, here it is.
When your hunger gets big, Benny's gets bigger.
Benny's fills your inner space while you're in outer space.
Big Benny noodles, so yum, so wow.
I love the ad, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that.
and that was on ATV this week, right?
It was
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah.
Congratulations with that. We're still far away from that because we don't do anything interesting really, so nobody really pays attention to us.
We're here to have fun for the most part.
Yeah, so we're here to amuse ourselves. Unfortunately, that doesn't really spill outside our little bubble.
Outside your little foam padded.
as long as you
corner.
have fun, you know.
Foam padded bubble. Yeah,
I need
I
one
think
of
that's actually the reason why, because this is This is fun impenetrable.
I'm
is
literally
green
just
screen.
surrounded by doors. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I'm on like
Yes.
a Scooby-Doo set, and if you go in one, you
Yeah.
come out the other. It's pretty crazy.
I'm in a jungle.
So is anything else you're proud of any accomplishments that you've done in the recent past?
Was it 5,000 listens we just hit a while ago? Like total listens, or what was that?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
it's
starting to get to
It's kind of our milestone there. So
yeah, decent little listenership for sure. And you know, I think we've been proud lately of our Discord, really, because we've got a nice couple dozen people in there, and we've had a lot of fun hanging out with them playing the game, which it's been fun to have the community going on, you know.
Right. And speaking of the game, which everybody has just lost, by the way, old means old.
I just lost the game.
Speaking
years,
of the
Darsh.
game, Star.
5 years.
Yes, I know. Star Citizen is getting some cool stuff in the near future. How excited is everybody about that?
always excited.
I'm excited. I think
Wait.
2.4 was a huge patch. You know,
It was.
we talked about it a bunch in our last podcast episode, but to finally get a little bit of persistence and some of the economy in there gives you a little bit of the beginnings of a sense of progression. That customization and a little bit of persistence is really helping. You can start to see like the longer term picture starting to come alive, which is
definitely
really cool.
Right, and it's 2.4. What about upcoming 2.5? And stuff like Grim Hex and other promised things.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm excited to fly my Reliant finally.
Oh, you have one
It's
of
one
those.
the biggest- Yeah, I do have one of those. Run and
Yeah.
fly it right into Grim Hex, which you know.
The Reliant's a really great ship. So speaking of that, I mean, like, we have the Reliant. That was the last flight-ready ship. I mean, hangar-ready ship. What do you think is going to be the next hangar-ready ship?
Well, I think they said, right, the Argo.
The Argo.
The Argo. Well,
It's
have
flight
they
ready.
confirmed that it's the Argo?
They-
It's
I
flight
thought
ready
they did
2.5,
confirm.
right?
Yeah, it's gonna be hangar and flight ready. So I don't know if that counts Meyer.
Well,
as,
yes.
to your question, but
They
Okay.
said hangar and flight ready, but did they confirm that it is the Argo?
I thought they did. I thought it
I
was
don't think they
confirmed.
did.
Maybe
Okay.
messed
Somebody
that
in
up.
chat.
So for the viewers who are out of
Somebody
the
in
loop,
chat will.
what exactly
Yeah.
is the Argo
Try-
then? Because I can't recall what the Argo is.
the
It's
Ar-
Go ahead.
It's a little kind of working little droney, but not exactly a drone. One-person ship. It's basically the little hopper that delivered the player to the Idris in the Morrow tour
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I
understand
think
now.
Ben Lesnick confirmed it as the
as the Argo.
2.5. Yep,
Mhm.
for sure. So, which will be interesting. I mean, I don't think that, again, we're not talking about a ship that can jump. We're not talking about anything. It's more of a utility craft that instead of being like a snub like the Merlin, which the role is more of a combat kind of intercept, kind of protect the mothership situation. I think the Argo is more maintenance / like, I don't know, going out to bring in crates or I don't know. I think one of the things they said was it would recover the escape pods, like if you were
Okay.
trying to rescue
okay.
somebody, things like that. But I don't know exactly what's intended for it. So
Will it
Right.
have guns?
I would doubt it, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe, but not anything meaningful.
Some little
Yeah,
ones.
would be my
Si-
guess.
size ones at least, because everything has guns. Everything does.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, but you would want something that doesn't.
True.
I mean, I would.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I'm looking forward to seeing more non-combat stuff go into the game. I think
Very
everyone is, but
Yeah.
we've had a lot of Arena Commander. We've had a lot of FPS. Basically, aside from the little bit of racing that you can do, that's all that you can do in the PU. And so
Yeah.
when we get mining or cargo, some of these things that I hope are around the corner in the next couple patches, I think it's really going to change the game, and I think you're going to see a lot of people that haven't spent much time in the PU come and want to spend time in the PU because there'll be something in the game for them that's not, I'm going to go jump to Korea and try to shoot whoever's on the landing pad.
Yes. I mean, speaking of new gameplay, opportunities and stuff like that, the Argo being what it is, and you said that, it's there to recover, escape pods. I mean, you can, theoretically do this in other ships, but for those who are kind of more like role-playing and stuff like that, I can see people, getting into their Argo and saying, I'm running this ship, specifically for, taxiing and like rescuing people and stuff like that, because that's going to be its job in the verse, so I can see that happening.
Do we know if the Argo's got Q travel? I think that's the only thing.
I don't know, actually. I would probably hope so, because
I would probably hope not.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think it does, but I
Yeah.
don't
They're
know.
just sitting in the hangar waiting to go recover things, and you jump in with your Idris or Javelin or maybe even a Crucible if they fit it with that, and salvaging or grabbing the ships.
Yeah, I would
mean,
hope
you
it's. I would hope it'd be completely parasitic in that respect.
I'd like to see less ships with quantum travel, to be fair. But then with the Morrow Tor, because he arrives on the Idris in one of these Argos, where is he coming from? I mean, I'm just trying to get like a more... Like,
Yeah, but you
Another
gotta
address?
understand too. Is CIG sometimes they'll like show you something, but then it hasn't always been like fully thought about.
yeah,
So-
fair enough.
Well, it could have come from a Bengal or a Javelin, because it did leave immediately after dropping you off.
Right.
Just like a little ship
shuttle.
to transfer between. Yeah.
It's like your dinghy, your space dinghy.
You're a dinghy.
Is it yellow?
It's your space dinghy. Okay. Hashtag
Space dinghy.
dinghy. I don't even know how I'm typing right now. I'm confused. Space.
So,
how do you even spell dinghy? I don't.
DINGY.
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't there an
GHY,
H?
there.
GHY,
Yeah.
GHY. Yeah.
Not that I would know, but you know.
So how large is it then? I mean, like, because it's gonna be in the Idris. Like, what's the smallest ship it can?
I think it's
fit
like
in?
an Aurora. I think it's like the size of an Aurora.
Okay, all right.
I think it's shorter actually. It's
Is it?
kind of like as wide and tall as an Aurora, but it's like almost square and it's
There's got to
Kind of
be a
volume.
Wikia page on it.
Yeah, I think somebody may have put a link in chat. Oh, there we go.
So there you go. That's really small.
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. And for the YouTube stuff, I'm actually gonna put it all over our faces.
All over
Alright.
our faces.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I really want an Argo in my face. That's all I'm saying. So let me ask you a question, changing the conversation slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Go
And
for it.
We started to kind of talk about this pre-stream, but there was a recent Reddit post in the Star Citizen subreddit about a mechanic in Rust, and there was an analogy made to Star Citizen, and I believe the comment was basically, hey, this realism's kind of cool, right? Where I think the example he gave in Rust was the best head armor that you can get in the game is this face mask that has these two openings for your eyes, and if you happen to shoot somebody with whatever gun that you're carrying in the eye,
Yeah.
insta kill, right? Because it's a headshot, so then
Eye
your
shot, yeah.
head's not protected. But then he
Yeah.
made the point, hey, if somebody's really far away, because that's normally how far away you are when you're shooting at somebody, this doesn't really reward, play because nobody's really that good. It's just luck. So if somebody went and spent all this time to try and get this good armor that you can wear on your face, it's kind of punishing to say, well, you accidentally shot somebody in the eye from super far distance. And they made the analogy to Star Citizen saying, hey, this is great realism when we've got a Bengal carrier or an Idris where you might actually be able to fly along this massive ship and find the subsystem you're trying to target, and we should reward that type of gameplay.
Yeah.
But if you're flying around in your Aurora or your Hornet, maybe it's not so fair to specifically be able to disable the entire ship or kill off the pilot by, 3.5 clicks out, and now I'm just firing something blindly, and it just gets lucky.
A lucky laser blast. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
Dargy first.
No, go for it. Go. I'm still thinking.
Okay, no, I think that it's an interesting concept. I mean, of course, with in the example of DayZ, you're a singular character, and
Trust.
Rust. In the example of Rust, if you get shot in the eye, you're a singular person, and you're not just a component, you're a person, and you get shot in the eye, that's the end. But I think that with larger ships, it'd be cool if you, as a player, knew, for example, like where the where a component was, let's say on a Bengal
The
carrier.
exhaust port.
Yeah. The exhaust port on the Bengal carrier, for instance, you knew roughly where it was. And so, but it's still really tiny. So, you focus fire there and you have like a percentage chance to hit it, but because you know where things are, you get rewarded for kind of doing that. But for a smaller ship like an Aurora, I think that those kind of parts should be a bit, the payoff for hitting something like that should be a bit less. So depending on what component it is, like maybe the ones that you have to deliberately aim for should be larger. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
so they made it modular in Rust. Like they made it to where instead of the way it was, they just said, all right, if you hit the head, you hit the whole head as a zone.
Right.
And then they made it more like that. But which I think might work for smaller ships.
Right. So you'd have the cockpit, you'd have the legs and the wings and the engine, but or the the whole hull, but you wouldn't actually be able to hit a pipe and disrupt electricity flow to a certain thruster and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be that refined and that precise.
There was Free Space did this kind of well. If you guys ever played that, and I know Elite Dangerous has subsystem targeting too, but I haven't played that much with subsystem targeting there. But if you were flying a loadout in Free Space that gave you a disabling, like if you had disabling blasters, like they had certain ones that were specific for subsystem targeting, and you could do that on bigger ships. But even on fighters, like if you just coupled your main like damage weapon with the disabling weapon, you could actually disable subsystems on a ship, which was kind of fun because you could just disable a small fighter. But at the same time, if the enemies did that to you, and all of a sudden you had your damage meters up top saying, engines 30% or like shields 10%, like you're like, it was this really tense moment.
Yeah.
And if your comms went out, you were done, because you could have a ship repair any of your subsystems that would come in, but if you lost your comms, you couldn't call a repair ship, and you were just donezo. So.
Right.
I think that works a lot better in single-player games.
Yeah.
I think it gets to be a lot when you're trying to keep all of that balanced in a multiplayer environment like we're going to have in Star Citizen. I just think it gets to be a lot. But I'm okay with some subsystem targeting, but I think of it almost always my mind goes to, hey, we've got 40 people together and we want to go take out this Idris.
Right.
Who's aiming at what part of the Idris? Who's boarding the Idris? Who's supporting our fleet? That's what sounds fun. But subsystem targeting, when you and I are going toe to toe and I'm in my Saber and you're in your Super Hornet, like, nah, man, I'm just trying to put shots on you. You know?
Yeah, I think that maybe in that case, because subsystem targeting does sound appealing to me in a larger ship, that if they kept that in, but the smaller ships, because the style of gameplay, between two small ships dogfighting and one small ship fighting a larger ship is going to become so different that you may as well have different kind of like gameplay rule sets for it. So with the smaller ships, perhaps maybe don't let a smaller ship be able to damage another smaller ship's subsystem to a certain degree, for the single player ships, but that with the slightly larger small ships with multi-crew components will get damaged, like even the Reliant, it has like those access panels for subsystems. I think that maybe, sure, not all the time those subsystems are going to be damaged, but still something to do. So just kind of, I'm sure this will happen with gameplay balance and stuff like that, but I think there should be a way of getting a balance, best of both worlds scenario.
If you think about it, right? The Starfarer's in. It's one of the larger, or maybe the largest ship that we have seen so far. I mean, the Connie's the other one that comes to mind. But even when you're fighting those, right? I don't know if you guys have spent some time battling one of those in the PU, but there's no ability to aim at a portion of that ship.
Of the Starfarer.
Yeah,
Starfarer, you can. I've
it'd be
actually
closer, but I mean, you're flying,
it is closer.
You're both moving. You're trying to put your pip out in front of it. Like it's not really like you're flying along Olisar trying to target one of the rings or something. It's just that's more what I think of when I think of components that you should be attacking.
Right.
They already have this damage states though. Like if you blow off an engine on a Cutlass, you're kind of your maneuverability is so hindered by that. And I would almost rather it just be like that with smaller fighters. Like if you get an engine blown off or a wing blown off that has a thruster on it, just let it affect gameplay in that way. Rather than making it specific subsystems.
So maybe this could be applied to all the ships by having the size of a single component that you can actually hit and affect be a certain size. So for instance, on Aurora, that would be the front half or the rear half, or maybe have it in split in quarters. But on the ship of the size of an Idris, you would have the component size stay the same, but because the address is so much bigger, that would constitute like a smaller portion of the actual size. So then you could have more precise component picking off. So it's not following the exact model, but it's still kind of
It spreads it out a little bit.
yeah.
It's all gonna have to be balanced out, of course. But I mean, about the Starfarer, I mean, like, sure, targeting a specific subsystem might be a bit tricky or whatever, but I feel like, if you're dogfighting a Starfarer, let's say you're a pirate, you want to capture the Starfarer or at least debilitate it, you have to then, in that case, think about not hitting the fuel tanks, because the fuel tanks are valuable cargo,
Right.
So
may go boom.
and
I know,
they're huge
but
enough
think
to
about
avoid.
what it would take currently to be able to do that, right? Because it's not about it not being a good idea. I like the idea, but I'd much rather see, like, all right, if you want to disable it, well, then let's talk about our namesake podcast, the DataSpike missile. I'd much rather see, let's put in an interesting mechanic where if you're trying to disable somebody, bring along this type of munition, that thing, maybe it's one of those smart missiles where, like, your wingman, who's also on board your multi-cruise ship, fires it, but then is controlling the missile with his HOTUS, and he's got to track the ship. And I mean, there are other things that you could do to disable the ship other than, hey, yours target's this big or it's this big, but try to aim at this while you're both moving. I just don't see it being something you can actually get skilled at. Like in an FPS game, there's twitch mechanics, and you're close enough to somebody you can aim for the head. I don't see you being able to really aim for a portion of a Starfarer, at least in the current game model.
Okay. I mean,
Right.
like, I get where you're coming from, but I could argue that I can.
Yeah, I'm with Meyer on this splice point.
That's
sorry.
fine. No, it's cool. I mean, I think that's why it's worth having the discussion. But
Because I'm thinking about my Delta, and how awesome it would be to do a rocket run on a Starfarer. And it's hard to hit on smaller ships, but I can destroy a landing pad in seconds if I'm flying by it. So
Yeah, the thing is, you could apply this logic to fighting, dogfighting, that you're actually like a kilometer and a half away, and the size of the ship is this small, and you're trying to hit something that's this small. But there will also be boarding, and you'll be able to use your actual handheld weapons on ships. What happens when you get close enough that you have, a single player ship, a single seater ship, use up more than the entirety of your view field? Where do you change from only being able to hit a big portion of the ship to being able to affect an actual component?
no, I think
let's
that's
not
true.
forget about the EMP mechanics already placed in with the Warlock. I'd like to see EMP missiles and things like that would go a long way to disabling ships. That could be a nice workaround for it.
Yeah.
I just worry about the initial getting from where you're far out to stopping the ship.
Yeah.
Right? Like I agree with you, once you can board and stuff. I think that's like a really good point, Darj. I worry about the initial like disabling of the ship.
Okay.
That's the mechanic. I think that's the one that's hard for me.
But Myra and I just discussed this in the previous episode, that there is no way to disable the ship. It's either on, it's all there, or you have destroyed it. There is no way of just turning it off remotely, either with a well-placed bullet or with an EMP strike or anything. So you can't really capture the ship. So I think non-lethal weaponry is something that we will see in the future, but I just hope we see it sooner rather than later.
I mean, hopefully, right now, when you shoot something, you shoot it dead. You don't shoot it disabled. I think that, there needs to be this kind of like grace health pool where like you shoot something and then it's no longer functional. It's kind of floating in space, and then you can shoot it more to blow it up. We kind of need that. But we also don't have E-War either. So once those two things come into play, then I think we'll see a bit more, in terms of that, gameplay opportunity.
And that would allow for escape pod mechanics and things like that too. If your ship it ran out of the main health pool and then was just in like disabled health pool, if we're gonna call it that. Like that would give you time to GTFO.
I think it's true. I made the analogy on Reddit a while back to Titanfall. Actually. Which I don't know did you guys ever play that game?
Play the beta.
A bit.
Yeah, so you get in the Titan, but when your Titan's going down, it has this like construction material, like black and yellow bar, Meyer, kind of like you. And it just starts winding down, and it's like if you don't eject before that bar reaches the bottom, you die.
Dunzo.
But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
start spamming your eject button, you can get out in time.
Yeah.
And then the more that somebody shoots at you while you're even in that state, the faster the bar goes down. But you
Yeah.
at least have some period of time in which to react to the fact that your death is looming.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, the main reason for a ship to blow up isn't because it absorbs this many bullets. It's because the reactor kind of goes. The safeties on the reactor go, but
Warp core breach.
Warp core breach. Yeah, but the time between damage to the warp core and it breaching is 0.0001 second instead of giving you enough time to get out. So yeah, that is something that they're gonna have to implement.
Yeah.
And I have a wasp in my light.
I can see your light kind of flickering because of it. Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah, nah, it loves the light. It's gonna stay there.
This stream is brought to you by Wasp Light. So
There you go. I think. No. Anyway, let's continue.
yeah, so in terms of the new content and stuff like that, with that have been kind of like brought to light now for 2.5, what do you guys think specifically of Grim Hex? As a zone. We brushed on it earlier before, but I mean, what do you think about it? Aesthetically and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like, is it? Do you see it as a place that you would like yourself to go? Like to hang out. I mean, like, it's really dark and dingy. I mean, in my opinion. And even if I was kind of like, an outlaw, it doesn't mean, yeah, sure, I get it. I'm a bad guy. It doesn't mean I don't get to see, But what do you guys think of Grim Hex?
It looks, it looks pretty. If I was thinking of archetypal, that's what I kind of thought when I saw that. It's like, oh, it's dark, it's dingy, it's not well maintained. It looks like there's crap floating everywhere. So it'd be nice maybe in the future see more, posh target pirate space stations.
Posh
But I
pirates.
think for
Totally
first, I think for like a first run though, it looks dark and shady and like a place where some unscrupulous characters might hang. So
Yeah, I think ultimately you could have pirates, to your point, Denimale, where you'd walk right next to them in ArcCorp and never know. And I like that idea too. But I think it's nice to see just a different side of design from CIG that we haven't seen yet, which
That's
is the
very true.
darker, like rundown station, like the sound design in ATV recently,
awesome.
Part 2. I mean, that was so cool. Like just listening to the creaks and all the stuff that they'd put in to the different parts when you're walking through the station. But
the
I'm excited
ambiance
for
of it that makes too is kind of neat how it's positional. Like it sounds different depending on where you are, and it sounds like a place that is less visited, I guess, by the people that are part of the Million Mile High Club.
It's actually alive, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I loved most about it is that it has a lot of vertical.
There's a lot of verticality to it, yeah.
Verticality, yeah. Well, I suppose you could call it verticality, yeah. When you can't really find a word to go with vertical, it's because. Let's say Area 18, you have the main floor and you have shops all around it. And you have you have one walkway that goes across it.
Yeah.
And then at Port Olisar, you basically have you have the landing pads, and then you have the structure that's adjacent to it, still on the same level. I suppose Korea has 3 levels, but you don't. That was kind of the first steps toward it, but I can see that in Grim Hex that it's really been taken to the whole new level, because it is probably as tall as it is wide, and it's got so many different levels that you can explore. So it kind of makes it from 2-dimensional to a proper 3-dimensional
usage of space.
Yeah, exactly, and it kind of makes it more believable. So it's not just a level that's sprawled out on the surface of a planet. They actually kind of went into, we have all 3 dimensions that we can work with. Let's do that.
Yeah,
I think
they're
too,
making the most out of all of it.
But you have anti-gravity, like, or not a lack of gravity, not anti-gravity, but
Microgravity.
yeah, right. But that should allow you, even in an oxygenated environment, Like, we should see creative architecture, right? You should be able to go into a part of the station where this artificial gravity isn't available to get to another part of the station where you walk into this big tunnel and maybe you just jump with your character and it sends you to the other part of this. I mean, I'm looking forward to creative.
No gravity the whole place? I thought that only that bottom part looked like it.
No, it's just the piece.
In the elevator?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
one piece.
I just mean in designing these stations,
Yeah.
we probably have more room to play with some of these things outside the
Yeah.
box.
Something I'd like to see is gravity that goes in different directions. Like have a space station that is like a cylinder but has landing pads all around it, so they're like
A la Elite Dangerous?
surrounding. Yeah, kind of like Elite Dangerous, but they would also apply to the inner part of the station. So you got examples in, I don't know if you played it. You got played it or watched it. The Expanse.
Okay.
They do a lot of that, and there was a single episode of Star Trek Enterprise where they showed that gravity on board Starfleet's starships is divided. So you got the bottom part of the saucer section where the gravity points this way, have the top part of the saucer section where the gravity points that way.
Right.
And you have the middle part where it switches and it's basically a one deck with zero gravity.
Okay.
That maybe probably changes in TNG and Voyager era, but in the first parts when Enterprise was taking place, that was actually a thing. So I'd like to see some more of that, where gravity, since you have access to gravity generators and gravity plates or whatever it's called, why not do that? Because it would actually make more sense. You could use your surroundings more if you had stuff on the ceiling as well, instead of just the floor.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Star Citizen, I don't know, because how exactly does that work? I mean, like with that explanation, gravity, up, gravity below, they're all going different ways. I mean, like in terms of relating that to like current known science and stuff like that. Like, of course, gravity generators is a bit of a long shot in the first place, but it sounds interesting. I think maybe magnets and stuff might work better. I mean, like mag boots and stuff like that. But then again, I'd like to see with Grim Hex. I don't think we will see it, but like areas that don't have like conventional gravity or like microgravity that you have to kind of like use EVA to get through within it. But I think they're just gonna go with just like this has a physics grid that's gonna do this. I think that's how it's gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know how gravity works, whether it's a plate that attracts you like magnets would, or whether the gravity generator creates a bubble of gravity that has a direction.
Right.
Yeah, so if it's the latter point, then it would make sense that gravity would try to push you into a specific direction no matter where you are. But if it's surface related, or if you didn't actually have a gravity generator, if you had just a spinning thing and then you was using centripetal force to create gravity, then it would have to be multi-directional.
It'd be kind of fun to have like a sphere. Or on the space station, you could have a portal situation where you would fly through and you'd get pulled back and you could just like sit there.
It would just need to be clear, whatever happens, right? I think there's a lot you could do, but if it doesn't make sense, it'd get frustrating.
Yeah.
Especially, we already have enough of a learning curve for new players as it is, just with the control scheme.
But I do think that is something that sets Star Citizen apart from everything else is the way things are explained and how deep the everything they go with goes. Just everything they decide on has various reasons, and they're very complex, and they all go down to a specific reasoning, just to why things are the way they are. Like in Elite Dangerous, you don't have that.
No.
You just accept it and.
There's not a lot of lore beyond the Galnet pages.
Yeah.
So, I guess another thing that like they've been teasing quite often nowadays, ever since really the the Dragonfly, is Cutlass and the Cutlass work in progress. I mean, we haven't seen a ship teased this much since the Reliant work in progress pictures. So it seems like maybe, I don't know, the Caterpillar might be coming out sooner than later. I mean, do you guys know if you've have you heard anything or read anything that maybe I have not in terms of when they've kind of speculated that's going to be like at least hangar ready? Like
I have not heard. No.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be at least a couple patches.
months.
I mean, I think it'd be 2.8. You know, I can't imagine we'd see that
the
anytime
Caterpillar.
soon, really.
Yeah.
Even
hangar ready?
Can it fit in the hangars they have now? Like, or will they
don't
have to
think-
expand the hangar like
I
they
don't
did for
think
the
so.
Starfarer?
That's true.
The current model that I've seen makes it at about 110 meters.
Right.
So that's like 20 more than the Starfarer.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah.
in that case, maybe perhaps we will not be. I mean, is it a planet-side ship? Is it it's a ship that can go planet-side? I mean, it has like
Well, yeah, of course.
legs, the
it has,
caterpillar
it has the
legs.
little.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess what? Okay, more speculation. What
you
do
go.
you think they're going to do in order to bring that to us? Because of course, the largest hangar that they've just made isn't going to accommodate it. So where is this going to go? Are they going to have to make a new large hangar, or where are you going to see this once it's ready?
I think it's a good point. I don't have an answer for you, but it does bring up an interesting point, which is at some point, every mechanic that they introduce, that they've promised, brings up a whole nother set of things that they have to produce.
Yeah.
It might be something where they could make a rather than retooling that hangar to make it be able to fit eventually a Bengal carrier, which is that's just absurd. And
No,
it wouldn't
they've
happen.
said that the Bengals and the Idris, I forget which level it
can't
is,
go.
but they are not even allowed to land on planets. Like,
Perfect.
There's a certain level of ship that has to persist that won't even disappear when you log out. And
Right.
someone might be able to tell me
Yeah.
what level that is, but like the Bengal exists even if every single person that was on board of it logs out.
Yes.
From what they've
Gotcha.
said.
The Bengal.
The Idris, they said you will be able to land.
Okay.
That
Well-
has been confirmed,
Okay.
but I don't know how they're gonna do it.
I would
Yeah.
rather them make like a temporary hangar that just kind of a platform in space for those big ships rather than redesign the entire hangar to fit an Idris or something, because that's just silly, you know.
Well, no, the
Well, no one
Idris
would
you'll
park
be
it at a
able to.
hangar.
Yeah.
Well, the Idris you'll be able to land on a planet, but
Right.
there is no way you're gonna make a hangar that's big enough for it.
Exactly,
If
yeah.
you want to dock it to a ship, you will berth it.
So
Fly next to it, and airlock to airlock. That's the only way it's gonna be able to do it.
So in the current state of the game as it is now, I mean, like just using that as a place, as what we have, with these larger ships that can't even fit in the, in the largest Revel and York hangar, how exactly are we going to see them? I mean, because they haven't actually talked about this issue at all. To be fair, I mean, like it's an interesting one that I haven't seen people talk about much before, but. Like a space platform would be interesting, but how would you get to that space platform? From the hangar module itself, or what?
It might just be something you could select as an alternate hangar, or on free flight. Those maps are pretty big. They could put an XXXXXXL pad, there, and
So
you could
you'd
just
have to go to-
spawn on the pad. in
Yeah.
free
But
flight.
the thing is, do you need to?
Yeah, because like
Probably not.
But I think this begs a bigger question, right? Which is you can create a sandbox for people to fly around in ships that they've been able to get to where they're flyable. But the
Yeah.
truth is, if we're behind in other areas of development right now, it's in developing the game world itself. Because what we're able to access right now is quite small. And
Yeah.
when you talk about we're going to get, Grimhex, but then we've been waiting for Nyx and some of these other areas. They're handcrafted and they're beautiful. And if we were just talking about the audio in Grimhex, you can understand how it would take a lot of time to handcraft these environments that are really neat to be in. But how are they going to be able to make them quickly enough to where you just get to a point where, all right, you want to fly the Caterpillar? That's fine in the PU, because in our version of the PU, you can have 80 Caterpillars out there and it doesn't actually matter anymore. And I just don't think we're there yet. So
no.
this whole issue about is it going to fit in the hangar will disappear once the game is bigger. And I think they need to focus their efforts, and probably have been focusing on the netcode and expanding the world and figuring out jump points and some of this other stuff. At least that's my hope.
So you reckon, or you at least you hope that they're not going to pander to the community and make like areas for people who own the ships to see the ships.
It's a
if they're
delicate
more or less
balance
ready.
because they want to keep people happy so they can keep the
Yeah.
money rolling in because they need it for development. But it's interesting. But
Yeah, I would argue that a lot of the ships, once you get past a certain size, you just won't be able to put them in the hangar or on a landing pad. You would need to park them outside a station or whatever, and then use a smaller craft to shuttle yourself to and from.
Like the
I-
ever so popular Argo.
Exactly.
Or
That,
the
that
Dragonfly.
may be that
Or the
may be
Dragonfly.
one of the reasons why they are introducing it this early.
it's very true.
It seems
So
like
with
an interesting
Capital-
ship to do that. Yeah, but sorry, with Capital.
Go ahead. I was gonna say with the capital ships not being able to despawn though, are we gonna have these Eve-like situations where you can't you're fearful of your ship the entire time, or are we gonna be parking at them at stations with defense arrays and things like that?
That's a good question, to be fair. I mean, like, with a large ship like a Bengal carrier, if you are a law-abiding organization and you have enough people to man that ship in the first place, then yeah, you can park your Bengal in UEE space and be relatively, you you can rest
yeah,
easy,
yeah.
safe. That it's not gonna go anywhere if everybody is offline because UEE guards will be there for the most part. But what's to stop another law-abiding group of people to like steal it? You know?
Well, there is going to be
Briefly.
subsumption.
Sorry.
And there's going to be subsumption.
Of course,
and
of course, yeah.
when you log off, if you have the Bengal carrier, the crew is going to be replaced, or I don't know if it's going to be replaced, but it's going to be just there will be a skeleton AI crew that's going to take care of your ship.
Yeah.
If it's under attack, they will fight back, and if they find out that they can't win the attack, they're going to run. So
Or think about parking zones where the UEE fleet says, hey, if you get within 5 km of this Bengal, you're in the wrong spot. And if you get within 3 km, like, now we have a problem. I think you could see some of that too.
Yeah, I think AI subsumption will probably help with a lot of the issues that people are going to think about these larger ships, the larger ships that when you log off, what's going to happen if you can't dock. With AI subsumption, the way they keep playing it, telling us about it, it's a really, really smart process. And the NPCs can do anything from walkabout, decision making about, should I serve this drink or punch this guy in the face and stuff like that. I mean, like, when you log off, I think you should probably you should be able to rest easy to some degree, to a certain degree. If you have the money, to or the UEC or UEC to
UEE, it's easy.
yeah. If you have the UEC to recruit these NPCs, you should probably trust in their skill, especially if the NPCs can be graded in specific skill levels and stuff like that. But with the Bengal carrier, I think that's the most extreme case. With that one, even if everybody is gone, it's going to persist. I don't think any other ship is quite like that, though.
How much crew does the Bengal carrier even have?
I don't
We
know.
know
but
that the Idris has about
thought it was
90.
Yeah, I think it could be a lot.
Several hundred. So no matter, it's going to be like maybe 10, 16 players that you can put at a Bengal carrier on your by yourself, and it's going to be the small minority of all the personnel on the ship.
I
So
would be
you have a night
willing-
crew.
I'd be willing to conjecture that the Bengal will not be available for a year and a half, 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think this is something that's going to come early on. They're talking about something, I think the other day, they said it was 4 times the size of a Battlefield map.
yeah.
And they already have issues with netcode. Like, how?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a thing for a while. I just don't think so.
But with the Bengal, though, I mean, they said you can't purchase it anywhere in the game. The only way you can find a Bengal is to find it floating in space in an asteroid field or somewhere, and then build it up from whatever state of disrepair it's in. So they could easily say, what are you talking about? It is there, and it won't be. And then 2 years later, they just decide, okay, it's ready, and then
Now we can spawn
somebody
them
will
in.
find it. Exactly. And it might take another 4 or 6 months for somebody to find it after that. So
And another 4 to 6 months for somebody to actually get it to work in order.
Yeah.
And then they have all the time to actually make it work in game. So what is the largest ship do you think that we'll have once Star Citizen actually releases? Would it be the Idris, or do you think we'll actually go maybe a step above it? Or
So we talking like PU launch or Squadron 42 episode 1
Yeah,
launch?
because it's kind of a
PU.
gray area.
Yeah, because I think there will be riots in the streets if the Idris is not playable once Squadron 42
I
launches.
think at a
Yeah.
minimum the Idris, right? 'Cause aren't you stationed like on an Idris in Squadron 42? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes, you are.
we have to have at least the Idris, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Idris is, I mean, like, you hear Chris Roberts talking about it before, and also some QA people talk about it as well, that, the Idris is around in terms of, what is it now? The Idris is there in their build, but it's not out in our build because of spoilers and stuff like that. They can fly it and stuff. I mean, of course, in the last CitizenCon, you did see an Idris fly over, and that.
That was amazing.
Yeah, so
It was cool.
so it's there, but I don't think the Idris will be out until after Squadron 42, simply because a lot of the nooks and crannies of the Idris will be spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, but the PU is going to release at least a year after Squadron 42, I would say.
Yeah.
And that would give them a lot of time to add more ships. But there's the Javelin, and there's the Bengal Carrier, and there's the Retribution, not counting Vandal ships or ships from any other race. Does the UEE have anything that is between the Javelin and the Idris, though?
What is it called again? There's some really strange ships that have like really weird names that from the leak they might not exist anymore. They might have changed completely. But isn't there one called the Phoenix? I think, or something, or the Paladin? Or I can't remember.
Isn't that the RSI frigate or corvette? The RSI corvette is going to be smaller than the Idris.
Oh, okay.
Because you had the Idris corvette that came the Idris frigate, but all of a sudden there's no corvette anymore. So now RSI is going to make something that fits that spot.
Pegasus is what it was called. Yeah, thanks, Swirly from chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be something that I'm just completely ignoring. So I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point.
Elite has an interesting way of handling this, and I just want to bring it up for comparison's sake. The capital ships in Elite are non-playable, and they spawn in and they cause havoc. There's battles you can a lot of times jump into or drop out of super cruise around where a capital ship is occurring, which is kind of nice because it takes the burden off of FDev to like make the capital ship flyable and whatever. But at the same time, you feel like, oh god, that's a big ass ship.
I think part of it.
Wrecked.
Part of the appeal of the capital ships in Elite Dangerous is their entrance.
Oh, it's
because they make an. I don't use the word epic a lot, but that is an epic entrance. You get those Inception horns started blaring, and you got like a storm in space, and the capital ship slowly emerges from. Yeah, slowly emerges from it, and it's like, I need to get out of here. But at this point, I think we've gotten to know the Idris and the Bengal Carrier so much that sort of awe is kind of behind us until we actually see it in game, of course. But I think that CIG is going to have to come up with something equal to that. Just so you know that when a capital ship comes in, that you're fucked.
Do you so there's that, and then also my other favorite capital ship one. Sorry to keep talking about other games that aren't Star Citizen.
No, it's fine.
Eve Valkyrie, the little trailer. If you've seen that, where they're all like flying around and they just get dropped on, and then a Titan just like instantly appears. They're just like, god. Like, would you rather have capital ships appear in the kind of slowly emerging, or just instantly, oh god, like in a big bang?
You have a good point there, because doesn't matter what it is, you're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, slow is scary, but I mean, if everything is using the same quantum kind of mechanic, it might just be zip-bap.
Yeah.
Zip-bap. Yeah.
Zip-bap, and you're dead.
Zip-bap, you're dead. Yeah.
I'm
It's
getting
got
another
like 90
beer.
turrets or something, did the dev say, or something
Yeah.
like that.
This capital ship thing that Danimal just sent me from Elite is nutso. Have you guys seen this?
Is it a video?
Yeah, let me see. I'll link it to you, Meyer.
Yeah, and we should put that into the stream because it is. And if you can, put it with audio, and we're going to shut up.
Cool. And I will
See,
be right back while you watch that.
What is this we're watching?
It's Elite Dangerous Capital Ship Warp.
Oh yeah. So this is crazy. We'll be a little bit behind, but I'll shut up while it goes. My beer.
Warning, capital class signature detected. Warning, capital class signature detected.
That just sends shivers down your spine.
Yeah,
It's that
exactly.
noise. Yeah.
It's very
Amazing.
reminiscent of Mass Effect and the what they're called.
The
What are they
Reapers.
called? The Reapers. Yeah, exactly. They
Ooh.
got the same sort of noise. I don't think everybody is just going with that noise. It goes thing.
It's just, I don't know, it kind of just rings something primal in you, in the human psyche. That noise just like, always inspires awe and fear, and you're gonna be fried.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, and that was that.
Danimal, you were talking about
sir.
the bespoke levels that they're making and all the time, and I was kind of thinking about when are they gonna stop that?
The bespoke levels.
Yeah, bespoke levels, because you got Area 18, you got Port Olisar, you got Grim Hex. They're
Oh.
all you can see that everything is made
Gotcha.
for
Yeah.
it, but they also are talking about
Like when will it
How
all
they're-
come together?
not when they all come together. When they are going to start using those as modular pieces to build other places, because they have 100 star systems to populate, and unless they start doing that soon, this game is not going to come out until 2946.
I was talking with our actually on one of our podcasts about this, and I would like, so I'm fine with them handcrafting places, but what I would love to see is them to build like modular assets, and then let players build starports and build space stations, so that it kind of takes the load off of CIG to do that. And if they give us, the assets where you can say, I want landing bay, landing pad, or something like that, I know this is a big ask. It's not it's not an easy thing to do by any means, but or at least let us choose from, I'd like an Olisar station, or I'd like a station that's different from Olisar that's already pre-made, rather
Have
than having
you-
that. Go ahead.
Have you ever played Warframe?
No.
Okay, so real quick, Warframe is it's Space Samurais, but the way that the levels work is that no level is the same twice, because basically how it works is that like you have a zone, and so each zone has a theme, and in that theme you have different rooms. Now these rooms are pretty huge, but they're randomized and done in a way that like one room connects to another room, connects to another room, connects to another room. So it makes so even though the theme is the same, and you might be doing one level where you're doing like a specific mission or whatever, like the map layout changes every single time. Now they mentioned that Port Olisar, and what is it now? Post Korea are very modular in how they've done things,
Yes.
so that it's easier to do. I don't know. It would be a bit of an undertaking, and there might be some limitations.
Yeah.
But
Then again, they are giving us freedom to design our own hangars with the room system. So I think maybe kind of like the station building system would be just an upgrade of that. Instead of giving your hangar rooms, you would take an element from the space station repository and put it here, and then have a core and landing pads and solar panels and stuff like that. It's going to be a big undertaking to create a system that lets you make functional space stations that also make sense.
Right. Like what Karadian's saying is that it would take a whole nother team of people to do that, to let us do it.
Yeah,
so if they built like different ones, or they pre-built variations, and then you could just customize using like a port system, like how a door would look, maybe that'd be a little bit easier to do.
I'm okay with
know,
even
but-
like take a page out of Eve's book, right? And just say, hey, they've got a certain amount of planets that have populated this space. And this is a little bit different, but then you could do, like, someone could own the custom station around that planet or whatever, right? But you could do a marriage between that and what Star Wars Galaxies used to do. And Star Wars Galaxies, I don't expect that fully fleshed out of a system for, like, player housing and things like that. They had similar idea where you had a certain number of modular homes or things that you could purchase. You could even buy them like on the equivalent of the auction house or whatever. And you could go out into the expanse far enough away from a player city, and it would say, cool, like if you want to put this up here, it's cool, but you just need to have established it as a city or whatever.
Right.
I could see a case for there are any number of unclaimed space stations already available sitting out in the PU, like call it 100 of them. And they are bare bones. They're literally just a floating... Every space station, there's one manufacturer in lore that comes up with this skeleton, and then you go and you and you place the modules. You go place the modules on the skeleton to figure out, is this going to be a manufacturing station? Did I put too many manufacturing modules because it's in a dangerous part of space and I didn't put enough, defensive modules? And do I have enough electricity to power all those? Like I could see that type of gameplay.
Right. Or not even just finding those stations. Maybe one of the prerequisites of actually building a station is having one of maybe 5 or 6 skeletons. So you can't really make a space station that's going all over the place, but you are constricted with the skeleton.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then you would maybe just have different variations, just like you have the Orion, you have the farming one, you have the particle accelerator and stuff. Is it Orion? No, it's not. Is it Orion?
No, I think you're talking about the
Orion's
Endeavor.
The Endeavor. The Endeavor.
But you put those tools in the hands of the player, and that'll but player-driven variation rather than developer-driven variation.
Yeah, but
to an extent.
If it's limited to space stations, of course, if you want a functioning station, you would need a power core, gravity generator, landing pads, solar panels. Unless you have all of those, building is not approved.
I think the problem is that as this game that they're creating makes everyone's imaginations go wild, right?
Exactly.
We dream of having the corner of the universe where we found an especially large asteroid that's, somewhat close to a major trade lane, and our our organization takes it over and we make a base in it and we've got our ships there and like whatever. And the truth is we just don't know if that's going to be possible, especially not at launch.
I would say at launch, definitely not.
And so that's what makes me a little bit nervous, because I like what's in the game now. It's fun, but I want these player-driven narrative mechanics to be in place, because ultimately that's what is going to keep the player base around. That's what made EVE so popular for so long. Like, their population's not large. It's like 50,000 people, but it is so dedicated because of all of the stories that they've made as a community. The meta game is what is the game,
Yeah, what you brought up a second ago actually makes me a bit scared as well. I mean, if you talk to like certain people about the game, they seem to have their own kind of narrative as to what they think is actually going to be in the game. I was talking to somebody and it was like, oh yeah, I can't wait for like being able to explore a jungle and find a wild tiger and stuff like that.
This
and
isn't No Man's Sky, man.
I don't hang out on other planets,
Exactly. And I'm like, where are you getting your information from? And he's like, well, isn't it obvious? And I'm like, no, it's not. And I feel like this is kind of played into CIG's favor in terms of getting the money that it needs to develop the game itself, because because it's a game in development that people are like putting their money for. Like people are kind of like basically funding their imaginations almost. I mean, like, people are putting money and going, oh wow, it's gonna be a space game, etc. It's gonna be there, it's gonna be there, and then, like, like, their mind kind of expands because, like, we're not given all the information, and so they kind of, like, build their own kind of idea of what to expect. I just hope that, like, people don't, like, end up disappointing themselves.
No, because I got to tell you, I loved Eve for what it was promising to be. I didn't enjoy necessarily the nitty-gritty gameplay, but I love the world. I even like the market system. I love the whole, like, really in-depth economy. And Danimal and I have played a couple months every year for a very long time, just picking it up and putting it back down, because we've never been that hardcore about it. But I always wanted to play Eve, but where I could sit in the cockpit. Like, I love the idea of the first person run around inside of your ship aspect of Star Citizen. If you literally just took those mechanics and dropped them into EVE Online, like, I'm sold. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think we're going to get that full feature set from what EVE has done in Star Citizen, because it's way too difficult to bring some of the things that EVE does because of its, like, top-down, like, fly to here kind of structure.
Yeah.
Right, and Eve Valkyrie is limited to people with VR headsets.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
I want to play this, but I'm not paying $800 for a fucking headset.
Make a GoFundMe.
Buy
Go
Darge.
fund Darge. Go fundarge.com.
But that's a good point, though, is that people, you're right. I mean, they let their mind run wild a little bit, and they have these unrealistic expectations for what they can deliver in this time frame. People that are complaining about, oh, it's been 3 years since this game's been in development, like, why isn't it out yet? It's like, games take time, guys. Like, they have hookups. Even GTA 5 took 4 years, and they already had a studio that was developed. When CIG started in 2012 after the Kickstarter, they didn't have any studios. So
No,
the
you're
progress
talking
they've
about
made
4
is
years
great.
from the release of GTA 4 to GTA 5, but they started working on GTA 5
like
well before GTA 4 was even
2009,
released.
I think, was when they started. It's like, still, it's not. It's a very short dev time. Or not a very short dev. It's a long dev time for that product. It's a single player, pretty detailed world, but it's not this big universe that they're trying to push out. So it's
exactly, and it's definitely not on the sort of detail level and fidelity that Star Citizen is going to be by far.
By far, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you're right. People got to kind of rate it in, and maybe our personalized modular space station thing is kind of also in that realm
pipe
of
dream.
a little bit. Yeah, but
Bit reaching.
And we don't
It's
help.
kind of fun to talk
Danimal.
about it.
Our podcast is nothing but theory crafting
Yep.
and wishful thinking.
we do.
But even when they say that, game's been in development for 3 years, why isn't it out yet? Maybe it's been in development for 3 years, but it started with 15 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had 300 people working for 3 years, maybe the game of the current scope would have been out by yet. But they started with 20 people and slowly started upgrading. That really
People don't talk
lengthens
about
the
that.
development time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest
People don't
critics
rea-
for Star Citizen, I mean, like, they never factor in this change of scope, this change of they not even like scope, because then they go, oh yeah, scope creep, like they say, oh, they try to put in more features, but it's more than that, It's the game itself has changed, like what they were promising at the beginning was just Squadron 42, and then more and more people started putting their money forward and saying we'd like this to be massively multiplayer. Then they're like, I'd rather have Star Citizen, okay, here's Star Citizen, and that's kind of where we are right now with that. And then they started getting more people in, and that goal changed. And Chris Roberts has said as much, like, he's not making however many $1,000 game that they were originally kind of pitching for. They want to make a game that is worth the money that we have pledged in, so the people who will complain and say stupid things like, oh, what's the point of backing, because I'll be dead by the time this game comes out. I mean, like, they drive me up the wall. They just have somebody made a really good video and they I can't remember what his name is called. Like thing is like Top Hats and something or other, and he basically called these kind of people poppy cutters. The people who would like cut. I can't remember. The analogy doesn't work if you can't explain it, but he called them poppy cutters, and he basically just said that these people like they just want to see the world burn kind of thing, like rather than let these flowers like grow, they cut them down before they're ready because they're just that kind of person,
Yeah.
like
Hey, ultimately, and I'm not trying to look past Star Citizen because I think that I still have high hopes for what it will turn out to be, which I also fully respect will not be what my imagination has made it to be. It will be something. It will probably be great. It will be a technical victory and achievement for all involved. But at least it opens the door to a continued progress towards these types of things that we like to see as players. And it also proves to the world that you can bring unique, brand new IP to the table and find funding for it without having to go through the studio route. And ultimately, maybe we'll end up with something that's based on, be it CryEngine or otherwise, a first-person shooter type system that is broader in scope, that allows for massively multiplayer online, that does some of the things that we're all hoping for. And if this is just the first step in that direction, and it's brand new, and it just gets the whole thing rolling, that's great. And at the end of the day, you're going to have hundreds of talented people that work in the industry that worked at CIG that then will go on to other projects and other studios that can bring all their knowledge with them. I don't know. I think it's a good thing regardless of how Star Citizen turns out.
Of course, in terms of
exactly.
Yeah, in terms of games and games development at large, all the skills and stuff that they are learning, all these novel things that they are discovering throughout the making of Star Citizen, such as the local physics grid, for instance, and stuff like that, that will go to other games later on to create things even more stupendous than Star Citizen. I mean, like it just. There's so many things things that we'll be able to get from Star Citizen that people always kind of like put aside and stuff like that in terms of why why this game, but yeah.
Anyway, we have rolled past the hour about 9 minutes ago, so I think it's time to wrap this inaugural 4-person podcast up. I have been Darjanator. Over there, I believe, has been
Meyer? Yes, my name is Meyer. Jesse Meyer. Yeah. So I guess it's
and
we are Splice Point and El Danimale, or
El
just Danimal,
Danimale.
from
I'm
the
waving, but you can't
DataSpike
see it, so.
podcast. So yeah.
So where can we find you guys then?
Yeah, you can find us on dataspike.me. And we'd love to see you guys in our Discord or anywhere, really. We're kind of out and about in the community, but always looking to hang out with our fellow Twitch and Discord and podcasting friends. So, I don't know.
Friends.
Excellent.
Daniel's looking very tigery today, so you got him on a good day.
Rar. Yes. And with that said, thank you all for watching, for tuning in on Twitch and on YouTube, regardless of where you've seen us, and we will see you in the verse.
You see that's our thing,
Yeah.